In today's video, we're diving into a topic that brings a lot of expressiveness and elegance to Rust, and that is closures and functional programming. Now, you might have heard terms like lambda, closure, or anonymous function in other languages like JavaScript, Python, or even C++. Rust has something very similar, closures, and they are super powerful once you get the hang of them. Today, we'll explore what closures are, how they capture variables from their environment, the different traits they implement, FnMut, FnOnce, how to pass closures into and out of functions, and how you can use closures to write more functional style code in Rust. All right, let's jump right in and start with the basics. Let's say we want to write a function that adds two numbers. This add function is defined using the standard fn keyword, taking two iterators parameters a and b and returning their sum, which is implicitly returned without a semicolon. The main function calls this add function and prints the result. Pretty straightforward, right? Now, here's how you could write the same thing using a closure. That right there is a closure. It's an anonymous function that we store in a variable, add. Let's break it down. Instead of fnadd, we have let add equals. And then after the equals sign, we have these vertical bars, a, i32, b. i32 defines the parameters. Here i32 is a return type, which is optional. And finally, the body, a plus b. This is the syntax for a closure. It's like a function, but it's not a standalone named function. It's an anonymous function that we're assigning to a variable. What's cool is that Rust often infers the types for us, so we could simplify this. Rust figures out the types from the first time you use the closure. If you call it with two i32s, it assumes i32. Pretty neat, right? Think of a closure as a mini function you can create and use on the fly. It's like a little self-contained piece of code that you can store in a variable. Now here's the real magic of closures. They can capture variables from their surrounding environment. Let me show you. First, we defined an integer x with a value of 10. Then we declared a closure named addToX that captures the x variable from its environment. The closure takes a single argument y and returns the sum of x and y. Notice we didn't pass x into the closure, it just captured it from the outer scope. This is why we call it a closure. It closes over the variables it uses. This is a powerful feature of closures, allowing them to borrow variables from the surrounding scope. Now you might ask, how does Rust know whether to borrow, mutably borrow, or take ownership when capturing? Great question. Let's explore that. Under the hood, closures implement one of three traits, depending on how they use captured variables. Let's explore them with examples. Let's start with FnOnce, used when closure takes ownership. Here in this example, first, a string named name is created. Then a closure named sayHi is defined using the move keyword. This keyword explicitly tells the compiler to take ownership of any variables it captures from its environment, rather than just borrowing them. As a result, the name variable is moved into the closure's scope. The sayHi closure is then called successfully, printing, "Hi, Willie." However, because ownership of name was transferred to the closure, if we attempt to use the name afterwards, it would result in a compile time error, as the variable is no longer valid in the main function's scope. You typically use move closures when you're passing them to threads or other contexts where ownership is required. Because we used move, the closure takes ownership of name. It only needs to be called once, hence FnOnce. You may get confused, we never use the keyword FnOnce. Actually, the compiler automatically implements one of the fn traits, fn, FnMut, or FnOnce, for a closure based on how it captures and uses its environment variables, so the keyword is not needed for the implementation to occur. Next is FnMut, used when closure mutably borrows a variable. This example demonstrates a mutable closure that modifies a variable captured from its environment. A mutable integer count is initialized to 0. A closure named increment is then declared using the mut keyword, allowing it to modify the count variable. Here, the closure mutates count, so it's a FnMut, it mutably borrows the variable. That's why we declared the closure itself as mutable, so we can call it multiple times. Within the closure, count is increment by 1, and its value is printed. The increment closure is called twice, which results in the count being increment and printed twice, showing count is 1 and then count is 2. Finally, the code prints the final value of count, which is 2, demonstrating that the closure's modifications persisted in the surrounding scope. This is a key feature of closures, allowing them to act like stateful objects that can alter their captured environment. Now let's look at Fn, used when closure just borrows the variable immutably. Here, a closure named greet is then defined, which immutably borrows greeting to print its value. The closure just reads greeting. No mutation, no move, it only needs an immutable borrow, so it implements the Fn trait. This allows the closure to be called multiple times without invalidating greeting. Crucially, after the closure calls, the greeting variable is still available and valid in the main function's scope. This behavior is a core aspect of Rust's ownership and borrowing system, ensuring data safety and preventing double freeze or use after free bugs. So, closures in Rust automatically implement the most permissive trait based on their body. If it only borrows, Fn. If it mutably borrows, FnMut. If it takes ownership, FnOnce. That's elegant and efficient. Closures are also commonly used as arguments to functions. That's where those traits, Fn, FnMut, FnOnce, come in. Let me show you. This code demonstrates the use of a higher-order function that accepts a closure as an argument. The apply function is a generic function that takes a single parameter f. The where clause specifies a trait bound, Fn, which constrains the generic type f to be a closure that takes no arguments and has no return value. The apply function simply calls the closure it receives. In the main function, a closure named hello is defined, which prints a message to the console. This hello closure is then passed as an argument to the apply function. The apply function calls hello, which executes its logic, printing hello from closure. This pattern is fundamental for writing flexible, reusable code that can operate on different behaviors provided by closures. Want something more dynamic? Let's use FnMut. Here we define a generic function apply twice that takes a mutable closure as an argument and calls it twice. The function's signature indicates that it takes a generic type f and that the argument f is mutable. The where clause is a trait bound that restricts f to be a closure that can be called multiple times and is capable of mutating its captured environment. Since the FnMut trait requires a mutable reference to be called, the function parameter f must be mutable. The function body simply calls the closure f twice, which will execute the closure's logic on both calls, potentially altering any state it has captured. This design is useful for applying an operation that modifies an internal state a fixed number of times. Closures are super handy with iterators too. Let's get functional. Let's look at the functional programming features using iterators and closures. Let's use closures with map, filter, and fold. These are the bread and butter of functional style in Rust. Closures make it easy to express transformations on data. This example demonstrates a common functional programming pattern using closures and iterators to transform a collection. A vector of integers named numbers is created. Then we call the iter method on numbers, which produces an iterator over the elements. The map method is chained onto this iterator, taking a closure as an argument. The closure takes each element x from the iterator and returns its value multiplied by 2. This map operation produces a new iterator of the doubled numbers. Finally, the collect method is called to consume this iterator and gather all the results into a new vector, which is assigned to the doubled variable. The code then prints the contents of the new doubled vector, which will be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now let's filter the numbers. Here we are using into iter to consume the numbers vector, and a closure takes a number x and returns only the even numbers, which are then collected into a new vector evens. Finally, let's use fold for reducing values. Here we use the fold method on a range, the numbers from 1 to 5 inclusive, with an initial accumulator value of 0 and a closure. That takes 2 inputs, an accumulator and a number, and returns their sum, to calculate the sum of all numbers in the range, printing the final result. The output will show the doubled numbers, the even numbers, and the sum of 1 through 5, respectively. This is clean, expressive, and safe. Closures and iterators make Rust feel like functional languages, but you get all the performance of systems programming. What about returning a closure from a function? That's trickier because closures have anonymous types, but we can use implement trait. This example demonstrates a powerful functional programming concept called a higher-order function that creates and returns a closure. The makeAttr function takes an integer x and returns a closure. The return type is a key feature that allows the function to return an opaque, unnamed type that implements the Fn trait, specifically one that takes an i32 and returns an i32. The move keyword in the closure is crucial, as it transfers ownership of the captured variable x from the makeAttr function's scope into the returned closure. In other words, the captured variable x is the value 5, which was passed to the makeAttr function. The move keyword ensures that this value is owned by the closure. This ensures that the closure, once returned, still has access to the value of x even after makeAttr has finished executing. In the main function, makeAttr is called to create a new closure, add5, that effectively remembers the number 5. This add5 closure is then called with the argument 3, which adds 5 and 3, and the result 8 is printed to the console. The variable y is the value 3, which is passed as the argument to the add5 closure when it is called from the print macro. Closures in Rust are a key ingredient in writing expressive, modern, functional-style code. The tools we learned today unlocks a whole new level of control and elegance in your Rust programs, all while maintaining safety and performance. Now go and try to build a closure-based logic in your own projects.